one of the major misconceptions with breathing is that if you breathe more, you get more oxygen. And this is something that I do with my students. I'll have them sit down and I'll have them hyperventilate through their mouth for 1 minute. And at the end of that, I'll ask them, how do you feel? And it's like, everyone feels lightheaded and dizzy, which is a normal response to it. And I ask them, well, why do you feel lightheaded and dizzy? And is it because you have too much oxygen in the brain? It's making your brain extra excited. And a lot of them will actually think that's the reason why. But it's the opposite. By over breathing, we get less oxygen to the brain. So there's something called the Bohr effect. And the Bohr effect has to do with how much oxygen our cells absorb, or how our oxygen absorbs it. It has to do with the affinity of oxygen to hemoglobin. So as we inhale, the oxygen comes in, it attaches to our red blood cells, and then it goes down. And this has to do with the partial pressure, the amount of oxygen that we have and the pressure in that. But there has to be another mechanism for the oxygen then to get into our cells. This mechanism is CO2 and pH. So if we don't have a lot of CO2, then the oxygen will stay on the red blood cells, and then it goes around and it comes out. The Bohr effect says that when you have higher CO2, it's easier for the oxygen to go into the cells, which is something that you really need, especially if you're working out. So you're more efficient. But if you're over breathing, what will happen is your oxygen will go through the body and then it'll come back, and the body will recognize, or the brain will recognize that, hey, we still have oxygen on these red blood cells because there wasn't, time for it to absorb it. We're making about 2 to 2.5 million red blood cells every single second. And those red blood cells last about 3 to 4 months. So it's constantly being turned over. And the body does this based on our current demand. And current demand is really important in this, because if the body doesn't know what's going to happen in the future. So if I'm over breathing, my body goes, okay, well, we don't need all these extra red blood cells, and so it's not going to use it. And then when you go to work out, you go for a run, you feel winded because you don't have the red blood cells to carry it to the cells. So this is directly affected to your VO2 max, which stands for your maximum volume oxygen maximum, the maximum amount of oxygen that your body could use through exertion. And so if you don't have enough red blood cells when you go to work out, then you're not going to be able to perform at your peak. But if you underbreathe, you breathe less, then more red blood cells you're going to get more oxygen into the body. Other things that happen too, which is really interesting or fascinating, and something that I focus on a lot, is breath holding. So when you hold your breath, you lower your SpO2, which is the amount of saturation in your blood. When you lower your blood saturation, the first thing that's going to happen is, after like 1 breath hold or 2 breath holds, it increases each time, is your spleen is going to contract and release a lot of red blood cells into the body. And so this gives you more red blood cells, which will help meet that oxygen demand. It's what happens when you're running and you feel like everything kicked in. So this is what's known as the steady state. The second thing that's going to happen is your body's going to go, okay, well, we're not producing enough red blood cells because we're not meeting demand. So your body's going to start to increase more red blood cells. And then when you go to work out, because it's always based on what your current needs are, not about what your future needs. So if you're practicing holding your breath, and let's say if you do this every morning, you do, a few breath holds, like practice for like maybe 1 or 2 minutes, do that 3 or 4 times, your body's going to be like, okay, we need to have more red blood cells. And so as you get more red blood cells, you have those, they're being produced every single second, but they last for 3 to 4 months. And so when they die, it's not going to die off as fast of a rate. When I do this with my students, we start practicing every single day when I'm doing my teacher trainings, and we start doing breath holds. And I start them out at really easy, 30 seconds to a minute. And by the end of the 3 weeks or the month, depending on the training, I have the students holding their breath for 4 minutes straight, or a 3-minute outer retention followed by a 3-minute inner retention. And what you notice, so we also do the breath holds using an SpO2 monitor, which is just telling you what your blood oxygen is. When they start out, the alarm, because I could hear it in the room because they all have alarms on it. So the alarm will go off at about 94%, 91% or 94%, depending on the monitor that I have. But you'll start hearing the alarms go off after like 30 seconds. And after 2 or 3 weeks into it, you won't, at our like 2-minute mark or 3-minute mark, there'll only be like 1 or 2 alarms going off, which is really amazing. So it shows you how rapidly the body adapts to a small minor change. And we only do these breath exercises for 30 minutes in the morning. And so this is kind of one of like the major like no-brainer benefits if you want to increase your athletic performance, is hold your breath in the morning or at any time. Just start working breath holds and train by breathing through your nose.
I'm looking for partners, collaborators, colleagues who want to join forces with me around the globe and create real value, generational wealth, and financial freedom for everyone else around the world. Get involved in the cryptocurrency markets, get involved in the NFT markets. This is your moment. Life all comes down to a few moments. Don't let this pass. Now it's not too late. Next year's going to be too late. Ultimately, this is about freedom. That's the way I see it. This is about giving power back to the people and enabling billions of people worldwide to use the financial markets to improve their lives and those of their friends and their families and their communities. Honestly, I think it's a violation of human rights not to allow people basic access to financial services. Because right now people are being kept in the dark, they're being robbed of education, and it's a travesty. And so I'm looking for people that want to join me and be a part of this solution. And that all happens inside the DeFi Academy. The gains my students are making are absolutely amazing. Double, triple digit gains in the first month alone. That's amazing. This will change your life. Now is the time to get involved. I'm going to tell you exactly how my students in my academy made money in the last 30 days. I'm talking about real trading results. And let me just whet your appetite a little bit. Let me hit you with some numbers. I'm talking Brendan from New Zealand is up 68.77% on the month. Steve from Europe up 83%. Albert in Singapore up 169.9% on one single trade. I got Susan up 153% on her call options alone, also rocking 139% returns and 442% returns as well on individual trades. These are people that are changing their financial future in the last 30 days, but it's based on trading discipline.
I've graduated over 500 students from inside my academy from over 54 countries around the world. It's amazing. When it comes to crypto, DeFi, and blockchain, we love this space. We truly believe it's the future. This is down to our core. It's authentic to what we're doing, and everybody can tell through the camera because you can't make this stuff up.
If you're watching me now, wherever you are, I implore you, take 60 seconds right now and join my academy. Apply today. Now you've got a chance. Life all comes down to a few moments. What are you going to do? What's the choice that you're going to make?